Hey guys, how's it been going? This is JSer. In this video, I'm going to try my best to introduce something I noticed or I learned, not typically learned, but I came upon, which is called Temporal. It's something called a Microservices Workflow Orchestrator. It's very interesting. I think I learned a lot from this one, even though I haven't tried it yet. I possibly would give it a try in the future side project. Yeah. So every time we come upon something new, we need to understand why it is created. So, yeah, for Temporal, it is a way to orchestrate the workflows based on the microservices. So, what is microservices? I think many of you are already familiar. It's the concept of breaking a big like surface into small standalone surfaces, so that each surface could focus on a single domain, right? Of just focusing on one thing, and it will be easier to identify the ownership. Easier to test something because yeah, you're building the Lego one block, and then you can combine all those blocks together to create a more create a figure, right? Create a better, more bigger stuff. But there's a problem coming about that. So let's just jump straight to the example here. It's on the homepage. It's suppose we have a subscription. So yeah, so the logic is a customer signs up for a service that has a trial period. After trial period, like for a month, if the user customer has not canceled, they should be charged once a month. The customer has to be notified by email about the charges and should be able to cancel the subscription anytime. This is the basic flow of like some subscription service, but basically I think it's more steps on that. Let's think about when user signs up, he's required to input some email address, and then there will be a verification flow, right? There may be a delay sending the verification email. The user opens the inbox and click the link, get it verified, and then he or she might be asked for more information, right? The credit card information, stuff like that, and then it comes to this trial period, something like that. If we're going to implement it like in a very naive approach, for me, what I do, well, I would do first when the signups, I will create entry in the user table, right? But for the user table, because there are so many fields, I actually need to hold those fields together, like email address, whether it is trial period or not, whether it's whether it has the what is that the credit card information, it's the user is verified or not, something like that. So all those, some of them are necessary, like for login the email address is required, but for trial or like a verification, it's kind of something in the middle. We don't want like it's kind of intermediate data state. We don't want that in the end. Actually, in the end, what we want is the user who is our really a real user we can charge, right? That's the end state. Um, so again, if I'm going to implement it, I would store that all those intermediate state into database, and then say, oh, the period, yeah, it's already explained here. We can have a job like periodically check those users like once a day or something, and check if they pass the trial period, and then up the database, something like that. That's kind of a separate surface, and it's kind of tricky because what if it's broken? What if there's a bug in it and you need to find a way to retry? And yeah, obviously retry would be potentially able to crash a database, like accessing too much. There needs to be a backup strategy, stuff like that. It's not very easy. And another approach of a queue using by queue. This is a solve. This is what solve the I think improve the retry situation, but still we need a retry a policy for that. It's not solving the problem once for all. And there's a timer surface. Okay, you put this message, say, okay, check this user like a 30 days later, something like that. and yeah, there's not something new introduced. The problem of this approach is that suppose we separate different surfaces for different fields to think easier. Then in each of that piece of logic, we need actually to grab the current state of the user and do some if else there, right? Like when we do, suppose we have a surface checking for trial period, we have a surface to check for the verification state. In each of them, we need to say get a user state and then check the user state what the state it is, and then do something based on that. That kind of logic is kind of duplicate about the surfaces, and it's hard to manage. Yeah, while Temporal offers us a different approach of this, it's not supposed to solve every problem in the microservice world. It's specifically working well for the workflow, which means it is useful for those long processes like user trial. This kind of could span for like a few days or a few months, or for transaction there could be span out for quite a few hours. And for like there's an example of like a video processing, upload, processing, thumbnail, or some CDN, I don't know. So it's quite a few steps to finish one workflow. That's what this Temporal is targeting for. It's easier to understand the concept by just jump straight into the code, I promise. So if we are handling this kind of workflow in the TypeScript here, what we can do is that, okay, we have a local variable. This is very interesting. It's kind of like what's the status state we're going to be stored in the database. Okay, we have a local variable, and then we set out some handlers like event handlers, and then here set welcome email to the customer. Well, initially when we sign up, right? After we send the email, we would just check if the trial period, start the free trial period. Yep. Yeah. And then await user sends cancellation email during trial period. What is that? This condition trial period. Okay, if user already cancelled. Yeah, if user cancelled, then if user cancelled, it will send the cancel email. And then if the user is not canceling and the trial period is over, it is checked by here. While okay, trial period it is over. Why here? Where is the trial period is over? Wait a minute. If here trial period, what does this condition mean? Okay, and this is some API details I'm not sure yet, but basically you can see here while trial period is over, we do something and we charge them, and also we will charge them like every month, right? So you can see here it's a while loop, charge them every month, and then anytime if it is cancelled, we will stop, and this is we cannot charge them forever, so it will there's a maximum here, total charge. Oh no, here I guess beating period number of value, beating period value, beating period number. Yeah, if this is surpassed the maximum, it will stop. So it's from this piece of code you can see that it is some logic working for a quiet period of time. So it's not like for seconds or minutes. It's this piece of code will handle the whole workflow lasting for the whole life cycle of a user. Could be 1 month. Yeah, here. It's good because this is actually fitting with our mental model, right? If the user do this, we go to the next stage, and then if something happens, we go to the next stage, and if there is some piece of time we need to wait, we will just wait, or just wait. Nothing nothing fancy. As I said, in the traditional implementation, we tend to store this stuff into the database, right? To keep track of the current state of the user. But now we don't do that because this is already used as a local variable for us, a local state for us. We don't need to care about the storage something. Actually, these are already stored by the temporal runtime framework. That's not runtime system. Temporal system will handle that automatically for us. It's kind of like okay, we don't need to store those intermediate state right now. It will handle automatically. You might think, okay, if I send an email, does it will resend it when we rerun this function? Well, it's already handled as well. Think of a React. While we are, I've put up several episodes about the concurrent mode. It's that React will just work on each fiber, and it could stop and doing something other, do some other important stuff, and then it comes back, and it theoretically you could re-render the whole app again and again. There should not be any side effects like breaking things. So that's the concept of idempotent. That's also the truth here. So the React system will be able to run this flow over and over again, but it will not sending emails twice, because that's not idempotent. You can think of like these all those functions which interact with the state. It's like being hacked. It will internally be stateful. So this function is not something just to send email. I think it will just keep track of whether it emails send or not, I guess. If it is sent, then it won't send again. That's why when the temporal system is shut down, suddenly crashes, it can just recover itself, recover it, and this function will be run again. This will be initialized, and then this email, it will be run, but it will not be sending the email. So this makes sure that this function is idempotent. How it is implemented inside, I think I didn't dig into detail, but there's a concept called event sourcing. You can search on the internet. It will be. I might create another video of this, but the idea is that rather than store like the user is verified or not, like canceled or not, total charged or not, we don't store the intermediate state, but store the events. So like the chart here, the intermediate state is that like okay, currently this card, how many items are in this card, but the event store means that okay, I have some events. Item 1 is added, item 2 is added, item 1 is removed, right? So we store a whole event, and then we can derive the current view, called materialized view, which is the current state, I guess. And then this is typically what we want to store, right? What we tend to store in the database, but the event store is created a different approach. It might be a bit unnecessary. Like here, item 1 is added, item 1 is removed. Why we store the log? Because it's not there in the current view. But this will help us with some cases. First is that there are a lot of benefits. One of them is I can see what happens actually in the history. It serves as the history, but for the current status view here, we don't see the history, unless we store them extra in some logging system or something like that. So Temporal is using this concept called event sourcing. We cannot think like everything will be like event with some initial value and some events. Yeah, and then while we run this function, it will just reconstruct the history with this event, and so that's why it is kept idempotent. The state how it is kept inside of temporal system. Yeah, that's my rough understanding, and it's quite interesting. I think it's pretty useful, especially when we are doing something. Like a process transaction lasting for days, for user flow. That's why it's focusing on called temporal workflow executions. Workflow, no, microservice workflow orchestration. Um, yeah, it's trying to solve part of the microservices problem, and I hope it to help you. Yeah, this is something I learned. When you are got interviews, say I want to know about microservices, what the problem is. One of the problems with microservices is that it doesn't work. It helps decouple things, but the problem is actually decouple things. Now we need to extra effort to couple things. One case of the coupling is the workflow, like a whole big flow spanning out across different surfaces. We need some method of orchestrating them. That's what Temporal does, and I think it's pretty interesting. Yeah, how it works is like the workers. I think my understanding is that okay, it's kind of like there are for each user there will be multiple workers running that piece of data code, and so for one user it will run a worker running this code. For a new user it will be another worker running the code. But it's cheap. It says to be cheap. I don't know. So it could scale up quite easily because we just spawn a lot of workers and running this code. And when it's ended, when the flow is done, we could just clear it. Cool. So that's it. I'm not sure whether I explained it well. This is the first time I met these things, and yeah, it just attracts me, and hope it helps. See you next time. Bye bye.